Hi guys, I hope your day is going really well. Just a quick note before we start talking about the best thing that there's ever been in the history of things, not at all an exaggeration. I just want to say that this video is not sponsored in any way, shape or form, okay? If you look at my sub count, and while you're there you can contribute to it by clicking on it, you'll see that I don't have nearly enough of a following for anyone to pay me any money to plug their product. So what you're going to hear is 100% my opinion and my opinion only. But if anyone from Busuu is watching, then please watch the whole way through and address some of the things I'm going to talk about, and also give me money. So I've mentioned Busuu before in a video about the 5 apps that I use most often for language learning, but today I want to take a closer look and talk about why it is the best language learning app, and it is. What makes it so much better than Duolingo, Mondly, Rosetta Stone, whatever other apps are out there? Basically, any language learning program, whether it's an app, a university class, a customized tutoring program, whatever, it doesn't matter. Any program designed to teach languages faces the same problem. It's a constant battle for the program between achievability, content, and features. To somewhat oversimplify it, that means that the more content there is, the less achievability and the less features there are, and the more features, the less content, the less achievability, etc. To skip ahead a bit, Busuu is the best by many a mile at balancing those 3 facets, and that word balance is key, because when I use Busuu, that's what comes to mind, balance. The problem when you start a language is that a language is like an ocean. It's not a pool, okay? There's no shallow end and there's no land anywhere. Everywhere is the deep end. That's one of the reasons that it's a little bit harder to learn than other things. There are no basics, or more accurately, the basics do not come first. And a lot of programs can never get past this. And they want to give you 2 explanations for why the French say je m'appelle instead of say je appelle moi, or j'appelle moi, or je suis, or a dozen other variations that it could be. And thus, before the language learner has even learned to introduce themselves, they've gotten bored and started watching PewDiePie. There is no shallow end for learning a language. That's why Duolingo starts with the boy, the girl, an apple, the boy has an apple, etc, etc. Yeah, but I want to learn how to introduce myself and ask someone their name, and Duolingo freaks out. It's like, too complicated. We're not up to that yet. Look, we're about to combine the boy and the girl and an apple. The boy and the girl have a red apple. Hooray! Now, I could talk about this all day, and I will, so get comfortable. No. To summarize, the balance thing for Busuu, it starts out where it ought to start, but it doesn't just get bogged down in gory details. The first lesson is short but useful, then you can achieve it, remember achievability, and it makes you want to continue. The second lesson is a tiny bit longer, you achieve that and you keep going. It's just a very well balanced app. But that brings me to features, because this is another area where frankly a lot of other language apps fall down. What does achieving something mean? To pick on Duolingo, which is unfair, but to use it as an example again, achieving something, as far as Duolingo is concerned, is to take a sentence, like, my name is Paul, nice to meet you, and translate it into German. Now, putting aside for a second the fact that you are writing it and not necessarily saying it, when it comes to speaking German in the real world, you will not be prompted with an English sentence first, which means there is no right answer. There is no right way to talk in the real world. Busuu occasionally asks you to translate, but much more often it asks you to think. Now, if I pull out any single question that it asks, I'm going to make it sound bookish, but I promise you the app is not actually bookish. It asks you to do things that you will actually have to do when you come to speak the language for real, such as inferring meaning, listening for context. These are completely necessary and very powerful techniques when you're new to a language, but very few programs actually teach them. Busuu incorporates those things into the lessons. So that's a feature that doesn't get in the way of achievability. In fact, sometimes it enhances achievability. It does slightly detract from content, because you cannot have 180 lessons that are in depth as Busuu's lessons. That's just not plausible. But if it's between 80 of Busuu's lessons that are actually legitimately useful and good lessons and 200 Duolingo lessons, I know which one I would take. And I didn't even mention the best bit yet, speaking. At the end of every unit, which as I said there are 80 of them, in order to complete the unit, you have to at least write an answer to an open question, but you also have the option of recording one using a microphone or your phone. And it's an open question. So it doesn't just say, what is the French for my name is? It says, introduce yourself in French. And you can be as creative as you like with that. And then native speakers, other users of Busuu that is, get sent your answers and they can correct them and they can record their own corrections if they want and they can give feedback. You can then, if you want, go into a full conversation about what you said and whether or not it's a fitting thing to say. So as a learner, you can be lazy and just record some rubbish and wait for it to be corrected. But my goal, personally, is to only ever have native speakers make comments like, this is perfect, you sound like you're French, or some such similar thing. So I sit there working on what I'm going to say and repeating it over and over until I think it's perfect. Now, this isn't an ego thing. It's a deliberate improvement thing. So, like all apps, you can use it well or you can use it badly. But that idea, that feature, tells me that Duolingo are not serious about teaching languages, for real. Because if they were real, they would have adopted that feature. Seriously, pure and simple. In my opinion, Busuu is winning just on the strength of that feature alone. And we're not done yet. It's got a ton of other features, so many that I'll actually have to be quick in listing the other things that Busuu has that make it such a legitimate language learning tool, but I will try. The first, logical and graded organization of lessons. Put simply, what I mean is, you see all the vocabulary and grammar that you learn in a natural setting that's not too advanced for where you're up to. So you'll learn some new concept, you'll learn some new words, you'll see a conversation which uses those words and those concepts many times in the one conversation, and none of that will get overwhelming. And then, remember at the end of that, you'll be asked to use it yourself. So you're never going to remember everything that you learn while you're learning a language, but everyone says that repetition is the key. Now that is somewhat true, yes, repetition does work, but you don't need nearly as much repetition of what you're learning if what you're learning makes sense to you and is organized logically and demands that you use it. The reason that Duolingo drills the boy has a red apple into you so many times is that we don't know this boy and we don't care about his apple or what color it is. You don't need 50 repetitions if you have to sit there and think, how do I say I have one brother and two sisters and they live in the United States? You'll remember that because that's relevant to you, because it is actually your information. Also, the lessons are categorized into 4 main levels of difficulty, A1, A2, B1, and B2, and each offers you the chance to get a certificate at the end of it by taking an exam. You can see where you are on the whole scale, you can see where you are within the smaller lessons. I love this app. That brings me to the next feature, which is that it lets you set a study plan and it tells you how long until you actually achieve your goal if you are to stick with that plan. And it times how much you're doing every day and every week, whether you're doing less than you said you'd do or more than you said you'd do, it's still timing you all the time you're using it. I don't want to get into gritty details about streaks and whether they're actually productive. It's much better to show you some pictures of the sorts of things that Busuu measures, and even better again if you go and try it yourself. To be honest, the study plan thing is incredible because although it's a tad unrealistic, sure, it's given me a date on when I can expect to have a certain level in French. And because you can see your progress, but not in a fake way like some other programs, and you know, and more importantly, you feel that you really will speak the language in that time, you are so much more likely to do it. As I said, there are also certificates at the end of each level, but they don't just give them to you. You have to take a test and you cannot redo the test immediately. You have to wait 2 weeks before doing it again. Obviously, the certificate doesn't really mean anything in the real world, but it means something to you, and that's important. I'm legitimately pleased that I got full marks in my French A1 level test, and I'm going to aim for full marks in all of my tests, which is going to be a lot harder for B1 and B2, but that's going to make sure that I really try to learn everything that it teaches me. Busuu has a bunch of other features as well, but nothing that gets into gimmicky and stupid territory. It may look bright and colourful, but I'd summarize it by saying, it's not a toy. Someone actually commented on one of my YouTube videos saying that they had become fluent in Spanish using Busuu, and if that had been any other app, including Duolingo, I would not have believed them. I'd have just said, yeah, I doubt it. You can use Duolingo to get you going, sure, and then you can become fluent, but you won't become fluent with Duolingo. And I don't believe anyone who says that that's what they did. What they might mean is they started with Duolingo and then started talking. But in that case, it's the talking that made them fluent, not Duolingo. And to be fair, Busuu also won't make you fluent in and of itself, but Busuu is going to get you a lot closer to those first conversations and will give you much better initial conversations and teach you a lot more relevant phrases and vocabulary in the meantime, a lot more often. Busuu is as close as I've seen to a full fluency package. I do want to bring up some criticisms. Unfortunately, the perfect app is, yes, somewhat imperfect. Firstly, they've recently done an update. In fact, it was while I was writing this review. It's mainly styles, fonts, colors, and I just think the old look was better. I'm not quite sure what they're doing. They may have tried to make it look less like a toy. Like I said, it's a real language learning app, so they may be going for that. But I think the old look was fine. It looks as though they've also fixed some of the metrics, picky stuff, and that stuff seems like the update has done well. I think it's positive. I just prefer the old color and font scheme. Secondly, their range of languages could be better. I'm sure they're working on it, but I would love them to have a Nordic language, maybe another Slavic language or two, maybe Vietnamese, and maybe an African language. But at the moment, I think they would easily cover 95% of languages that English speakers tend to learn, so it's not a big complaint. Thirdly, as achievable as the content is, some of the questions are just too easy, and that's regardless of level. I think there is a direction with the easy questions. I can see what they're doing, but some of them are so easy that it's just a waste of time to even ask it. Speaking of wastes of time, I don't like the questions where you have to fill in what's written by clicking options of letters. I think it's supposed to aid you in learning how to spell in the language, but I'm not sure how well it actually works. And I don't like sitting there clicking letters when I would be better able to type them. So if they got rid of that feature, I'd be fine with that. My last criticism is sort of reaching a bit, but that is that there is no screening for the level of a language that someone can speak before they're allowed to give corrections in that language. So it is very rare. I want to point that out. This is very rare, and it's not exactly Busuu's fault. But I do see people who can't really speak English correcting other people's English. And you can see where this is going. Of course, the corrections are wrong. This annoys me because it undermines the whole purpose of that system. If someone is trying to learn English and they can't trust what they're being told, that makes it difficult for that person. I think there should actually be some kind of voting program where users are encouraged to review other people's corrections. And if your corrections get downvoted enough times, you can't give corrections in that language anymore. Because this isn't a game. People are trying to learn a language for real, and if they're trying to learn English, then it's a serious endeavor in their life. Very often they're trying to learn it for a career or something like that. They shouldn't be having their language corrected by Shifty McDumbass. That's it for criticisms. I have been talking this whole time about the premium version, which to me is a no-brainer. It's $30 a year if you can find a coupon. If you don't find a coupon, it's $60 a year. That is very much a bargain. Even the free version is actually pretty good. All the content is there, just some of the features aren't there. But even if you have no money at all, the free version will work just fine. Get off Memrise, get off Reddit, get off YouTube after you like this video and subscribe, and get onto Busuu. I just want people to use it because it's good. It's that simple. I have no other motive other than wanting people to learn languages and wanting them to use Busuu, because the more people on Busuu, the better the app works and the faster people can actually learn languages, and it's fun. And the more people who do it, the more fun it is. And the more people who use Busuu, the more people will actually succeed. So if you're not learning a language, go to Busuu, pick one and start. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much to all my new subscribers who are helping me feel motivated and encouraged to make more of these. Believe it or not, these videos do not make themselves. I have heaps of other videos about language learning, reviews of foreign language TV shows and stuff like that. So stick around. If you're just kicking back on YouTube, subscribe, watch some of my other videos. Thank you so much for watching this one. I hope you enjoyed it wherever you are, whatever language you call your own. See you next time.